right, I am going to go ahead and I'm going to put the link to the slides in the chat. And so you can see the slides are in there for you. And we are going to go ahead and get started. Today's webinar is using AI to curate educational content. And this one is geared toward middle and high school teachers. So what we'd like you to do is in the chat, let us know where you're from and what grades you teach to see if we have more middle school, more high school, a good mix of both. I'm coming to you right now from Chicago. Oh, Arizona, grades 9 through 12. All right, high school. Middle school and high school, computer science and robotics in Oklahoma. Very nice. High school, South Carolina. Welcome. All right, I'll let people keep putting their information in there for us, but we're going to go ahead and go to the next slide. All right, and so my name is Robin Leslie, and I taught high school business and computer science and graphics and all sorts of good stuff for 15 years in Indiana. And I'd like to introduce you to Sarah. Sarah, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure, I just realized I am not muted and I can't mute because I'm sharing my screen, so I'll be real quick. So hi everyone, my name is Sarah Strong. My pronouns are she, her, and I teach high school computer science in Waterloo, Ontario, Canada. So my curriculum's a bit different than yours, but we teach a lot of the same concepts and skills. So I teach grades 10, 11, 12, which is age 15 to 18 or so.
Nice, thank you. And she is going to be your presenter for today, but I do have some more information to go over with you. So Sarah, if you could go to the next slide. All right, our agenda for today is what AI tools are available, looking at prompt engineering to make sure you get what you're looking for, and also, of course, curating educational content. You can go ahead. So in order to ask questions, you can just go ahead and type those right in the chat for us, and we can get them from there. We probably don't need to use the Q&A today. So if you come up with a question you would like to ask me or you would like to ask Sarah, you can go ahead and type those into the chat. Go ahead. And then if you don't already have a CodeHS account, getting a CodeHS account is totally free. And I am going to put that into the chat for you. There you go. Awesome. The next slide, please. So here is the certificate of completion link. And in order for this link to work, you need to be signed in to CodeHS. So make sure you're signed in before you click this link that is now in the chat for you. And that's just going to send you an email that says, thank you for attending this 45-minute webinar. Nothing exciting or flashy happens. It just pops up on the screen and says, thank you for attending. But again, make sure you are logged into your CodeHS account. If you could go to the next slide for me. So if you're new to CodeHS, I just want to give you a little bit of information. We do offer curriculum now for grades K through 12. So we go all the way from kindergarten through senior year. And almost all of it is web-based right on our site, unless, of course, you're doing something like game design with Unity, in which case students would need that. But we try to have everything that you would need to be able to teach computer science to your students, the curriculum, the professional development like we're doing today, tools and resources for teachers. So we try to make it easy for you to use our curriculum. And you can go to the next one. Here are some of the things that we offer. Instant feedback. I know teachers love to have things that are auto-graded, and so did I, for sure. So that is something that we have. Grading and tracking tools, and lots more. So you can go to the next slide. All right, and now I'm going to have Sarah take over and give you guys some more information on how to use AI.
Hey, welcome everyone. So I was looking through the chat and I can see that a lot of you, actually everyone that posts in the chat is from the US. So as mentioned before, I'm from Canada. And today, September 30th, is actually a very important day in Canada, so I'll briefly tell you about that. So today is the National Day of Truth and Reconciliation, also known as Orange Shirt Day, and that's the reason why I'm wearing a bright orange shirt. It's not a coincidence. So today is a day of reflection and learning about Canadian history. And even if you're not from Canada, if you live in any Western country with a history of colonialism, it's a very important topic to learn about. So very briefly, so in Canada, we had something called residential schools, which were a way for Western settlers to help Indigenous kids settle into Western culture, and it did a lot of damage to Indigenous communities. So in the US, you may use the term Native American or Aboriginal. We use the word Indigenous. It's a more global term. And so today is that day to learn about that. And even in the US, it's important to learn this type of history. So without further ado, let's begin talking about AI. So we've all heard the term AI, but we may not be able to distinguish what tools are actually AI and which tools people think are AI. So here are 6 examples of things, some of which are AI and some of which are not. And I'll give you around 10 seconds to read through them and think to yourselves which ones are AI and which ones are not. And you don't have to use the chat for this. All right, so how can we tell if something is actually AI? So AI tools learn from data and they improve over time, whereas non-AI tools follow static rules and have predefined responses. So for some of these, they don't actually change over time, and for some of them, they do. So for example, an autograder, it just checks if something's right or wrong. There's no learning along the way. It just checks, is this the right response? But for facial recognition software, as it reads more faces, it gets better. It learns better. It can be better at matching faces. That's AI. Traffic lights, I wish they were AI. I wish they were better. They were programmed for us to not hit 5 red lights in a row, but it's not AI. All right, video recommendations? Yes, they are, because as you watch more videos and as more people watch more videos, it learns. It realizes what videos are related. And if someone likes one video, they might also like another video. Spell checker? Nope, it just checks a dictionary that's already made for them. It doesn't grow that dictionary on its own. We need a human if we want to update that dictionary. It doesn't do it automatically. All right, on the other hand, Grammarly, it does learn. So as more people use the app, it gets better at giving recommendations. So that's a brief overview of how to tell something is AI or if it's not AI. All right, so a lot of apps that we use and our students use have AI. So here are a couple of them. So in Spotify, anything they recommend to you is based off of user data. It's based off what other people have listened to. And it also helps make playlists using that data as well. Netflix, same idea, except for TV and movies. For shopping, product recommendations, if someone buys something and something else, they might recommend the second thing to you. And kind of the scary thing here is predictive shopping, which is when it buys something for you. I don't know if anyone's ever dared to try that, but that is a feature that Amazon Shopping has that uses AI. And for Instagram, a lot of the same things, discovering content, making recommendations, advertising, targeted ads, facial recognition software, and this is interesting, filtering out inappropriate content. So it has to learn what things gets taken down, and it gets better at realizing what is appropriate content and what it should take down right away. Here are some other apps. Google Maps, so route optimization, traffic predictions, all of this uses AI. It uses data that it collects from users who use the app. Uber, same idea for all that route planning, also price surging and predicting the time when you arrive. And for voice assistance software, as it listens to more voices and tries to figure out what you're saying, it gets better at doing that. All right, so here are some terms that come up a lot when we talk about AI. So first, AI stands for artificial intelligence. So what is that? It's the science of making machines that, sorry, my face is in the way, of making machines that can think and learn like humans. The reason why think and learn are in quotation marks is because it's not real intelligence, it's artificial. Artificial means fake, like artificial coloring. Like, I'm sorry, that is not a real banana flavor, it's artificial. So it's scary how real it feels, but it's not real, it's artificial. All right, so large language model. This is a type of AI system that processes and generates human-like text based on vast amounts of data. And I mean vast amounts of data. If you think about how complicated English is, it has the largest vocabulary out of any language in the world. Think about how much English it has to consume to actually write something that looks like natural English. So this is the part where it generates text based on all of this data. All right, so what about a neural network? Whenever we see the word neural, chances are it has something to do with the human brain, like neuron or neurobiology. So neural network is a computer system that models on the human brain. So that is part of the research in AI. And another part is machine learning. This is the learning, this is the getting better. This is the field of AI where it takes information and improves itself without any human intervention. All right, so when we use AI, we have some things to be concerned about. So it's important to know what some of the limitations are because it's not perfect and it can be dangerous sometimes if we misuse it. So first of all, it doesn't actually understand what it's saying. It's scary how it feels like something a human might write, but it has no idea what it's actually saying. And especially when you don't give it enough context, it'll just make stuff up. It's amazing what it'll make up and say with full confidence, even though sometimes what they write is complete garbage. Another issue is accuracy. On the topic of making things up, it might make up references, it might make up stories that didn't happen. And again, that's just because of the way the large language model works. It has no idea whether what it's saying is factually correct, although it will use really good English to do that. And the most important issue, I think, when we use AI is to understand that AI is limited to the training set, and there are human biases that come into the training data that is used. In particular, for example, facial recognition software is best used when your skin is light, and that is because of human biases. That's because the training data contains more light-faced faces than dark-faced. So as a result, it doesn't do a very good job of recognizing people with darker skin colors. And there are, of course, other biases. That's just the most common mainstream example when AI lacks diversity due to human issues. All right, so of course, we're educators and we want to know how do we use this in our classroom? And that's why you came to this seminar, right? So for writing, here are a couple of them. If you want to screenshot these tools, I'll give you a chance when I have everything on the slide. So for writing, there are a lot of tools that can help us improve our writing. And the one I like the most is Brisk, although I also use Grammarly quite a bit. And so I'll talk about Brisk later, but here are some, you don't have to know every single AI tool, but it's good to have a list that you can choose from so you can explore on your own. So I don't know all of these. I know about half of these. I've used about half of these. So for text to speech, I personally have not used a lot of these, but I know a lot of kids really benefit from having text to speech software to help them with their writing. And also teachers can benefit from this too to save some time typing. And for adaptive learning, so I've played with Khanmigo a bit. So this is the app that Khan Academy uses, and it's basically just a really intelligent, personalized tutor that doesn't give you answers. It helps guide you along the way. It helps you explain your thinking, helps you find mistakes without doing all the work for you. It's really fascinating AI. So I mentioned that Brisk is one that I use a lot, and that is my focus for the next slide. So what is Brisk? So Brisk is an AI tool that helps with writing. And the tool that I use the most is called Change Reading Level. So if you open a Google Doc and you have the Brisk extension, see this little dark black icon with this B shape in it? That's the Brisk icon. If you click on it after you've downloaded the extension, you get this pop-up that says Curate, Inspect Writing, Boost Student Activity, Give Feedback, and Change Level. So change level is something that I use often. And what it does is it goes through the Google Doc and it predicts what reading level it's at, and it can rewrite it for you in a different grade level. So for example, I gave it a piece of text, which it determined was a grade 9 level. And if I select 5th grade and change reading level, I get a new document with the same text, except at a lower reading level. So it simplifies things, it rewrites it to use a simpler vocabulary, simpler sentence structures, and I find that really helpful So even though I teach high school, I try to keep the reading level quite low because I know a lot of kids struggle with reading and they might be very behind. And also because I have a lot of multilingual learners in my classroom, so students whose first language is not English, and just keeping instruction at a low reading level is very helpful for understanding. So here's an example of what I did with Brisk. So the top box here is something that I got from ChatGPT, and it's a 9th grade reading level. I put it in Brisk, and it gave me a simpler set of instructions that say the same thing, but with simpler language, which makes it easier to understand. So this is a tool that I like to use in my classroom. All right, so let's talk about prompt engineering. So how do we get AI to produce output that is useful to us? So first, you may have heard of chatbots. So first, what exactly are those? So in the context of AI, a chat is an interactive session where you exchange messages back and forth. So even though a lot of us use ChatGPT just for a single prompt and then we just copy the first response, a chat is really that interaction back and forth where you say, I like your answer, but do this, or can you do this instead? Or can you improve by making it shorter? And things like that. That entire session is really what a chat is, not just the first response you get. That's exactly what I just said. All right. So here's some examples of chatbots you may have heard of and used. So Gemini is it's Google, right? Sorry, I forget I haven't used Gemini very often. So there's Gemini, and of course there's ChatGPT. So one quick note about using chatbots in your classroom is that there is a rule for what age you're allowed to be, so double check that. I believe Gemini is actually 18 plus, whereas ChatGPT is 13 plus, which is why I tend to prefer it and have my kids use that. It does require parental consent, and that's something that will be important when using these tools. All right, so prompting is the idea of giving it a message so that your AI can generate some text back to you. And if you give it something vague without a lot of context, it probably won't produce the result you want. So here's some tips to ensure that you actually get a useful result. So first is to customize it. I'll show you what that looks like in a bit. And there's an acronym you can follow to make sure that your prompt has all the parts in it that are going to be useful for it to give you a good response. And also to really just go back and forth and refine it as needed if the first result is not what you want. All right, so first up is how to customize the chatbot. Oh, also understand that AI is limited to the training data. So sometimes you keep reprompting and it doesn't do what you want, and it's not a problem with your prompt, it's a problem with what it's able to do. So how to customize it. So if you're on ChatGPT, if you go to the top right corner, there's an option to customize. So you can do something here where you give it a little more information that lasts throughout your entire conversation. For example, you can say, talk like a pirate. That's a fun example where anything it gives, it says R and things like that. And the tool on the right is actually the ChatGPT playground, which is not, like if you go to ChatGPT, you're probably gonna just land on the chat page, but there's another page called the playground where you have a lot more freedom to customize things. For example, one of the things you can change is the temperature, and this affects the probabilities of what word comes next. If you have a temperature of 1, every output is the same no matter, like if you give the same prompt over and over again, it'll give the same result. But as you play with that setting, you get different variability of randomness. And if you use the playground, it doesn't actually count as training data because you're playing with it. Whereas if you use ChatGPT, where you just go back and forth as usual, it does use that data to improve on itself. All right, so what does parts stand for? So I mentioned that this is to ensure that your prompt has all the components you need to make it useful and to ensure that the response has all the context that you're looking for. So persona is P, and it's your role. So I'm a high school teacher. That's my persona. Aim. So what do I actually want this prompt to give me? So for example, I might be asking it to make an assignment for me, and I can describe what that assignment is. Recipient, your audience. So I can say that I'm going to give this to my high school students who are age 14 to 18 or so. Theme. So I could say, I want this in a paragraph form. I want this in bullet points. I want this in a table so that the output is useful to me. And S is, sorry, I got that backwards. Style and tone is formal, for example, formal English, dot jots, things like that. Whereas the format would be the table or the paragraph form or dot jots. All right, so here's an example of that. So here's a prompt that I gave ChatGPT. So I'm a computer science teacher designing an assignment for my teenage students who are brand new to coding. Design a task for students to show their understanding of while loops in Python. Write the instructions in simple formal language and in paragraph form. And this is what it gave me. So not bad, right? It's a paragraph. It has all the information that I was looking for, and it's actually a pretty good task. It's actually quite similar to what I actually give it. The only main difference is that if it's outside the range, so if they guess 101, it says invalid guess, try again. And the other thing is I let them do it in 7 tries. And when I ask, or what my students ask me, why 7? I tell them we're going to learn that next year when we learn about binary searching, but 7 is the perfect number you need to guess a number from 1 to 100 if you say higher and lower. So this is actually a really good output that's actually similar to what I made without the use of AI. All right, so the last topic is curating content. So this is the idea that we can have AI do a lot of the work for us and save us time. But of course, we still have to make sure that the outputs are what we want and we are not being too lazy. We just want to ensure that it's saving us time and we still get things that are helpful to us and something that we could have made without AI. So here are a couple tools, and the one that I'm going to focus on is Diffit. So to be honest, I only heard of a couple of these before, and I played around with a few of them, and I really like Diffit. So I'm going to share what that is. So Diffit is a tool where you can just give it a topic. If it's a common subject like math, history, science, you can tell it that. And if you're in the US, you can align to the US standards. So I didn't select that option. And there's also a fiction or nonfiction option. Interesting option, I guess, if you're talking about an English story or something in history, that makes sense to modify that. Reading level is here and language is here. It does use other languages as well. It's quite interesting. So all I put was while loops in Python. And you just learn that for prompting that you want to include a lot more information. So this is a very vague prompt, but even with this little information, let's see what it gave us. So here are a couple screenshots. So first of all, it gave us a summary of what a while loop is in Python. It gave me some multiple choice questions. If I want to quiz them, here are some questions that I could use. If I want short answer questions to get a deeper understanding than multiple choice, here are some questions. And also here are some open-ended prompt with some questions for students to think about. So even though I probably wouldn't use a lot of this content, I could look through to see what parts of this are really useful to me. And maybe I will make a quiz and maybe I will use some of those questions and just make some small modifications. All right, back to Robin.
Awesome. See, I learned something new today. Actually, a couple of new things. So thank you so much. Anyway, I have a couple of links that I want to put in the chat for you guys. But before I do that, we wanted to make sure that we answered all of your questions. So if you would like to see something again, you had a question for Sarah about something, we would be more than happy to answer those questions if you just type them out in the chat. And I'll give you guys time to do that. And then while you're doing that, I just wanted to point out a couple resources we have. If you're not already in our CodeHS Facebook educators group, it's a really great group on Facebook where teachers who use CodeHS interact with each other and share resources and ask questions. And so that's kind of a really happening space. You can also earn CodeHS micro-credentials. You can become a CodeHS certified educator. And of course, you can follow us on all of our social media. We do have one question. Sarah, have you had any difficulty getting parental consent for students to use ChatGPT?
No, because we do it as a department. So once they sign it, once it's good for all courses. So as long as you collaborate with other teachers on that, it's really helpful when you have teachers who also use it in their class, and it's just good to get it done once. No pushback so far.
That's a good question.
They understand that it's part of the curriculum. It's computer science. Using AI is part of computer science, so that's understandable.
Awesome. If you could go to the next slide and keep typing in your questions as we go. I do want to put the webinar survey in the chat for you. It's right there. It's only a couple of questions and it lets us know how we did, what you would like to see, things like that. And it's pretty brief. And then the other thing, and I know I gave this to you earlier, but I think some people came in after I put it in the chat. And this is the certificate of completion link. Just says that you attended the webinar today. And if you could go to the next one. So take a look. We do have several back to school webinars still coming up. And as you know, they are free. So if you want to check those out and register for those, you can. I put the link in the chat. And the other thing I wanted you to know is that if you see one that you would like to attend, but you know you're not going to be able to, it's at a bad time, bad day, whatever it may be, you can sign up and register for any of the webinars. And since you registered, we will send you the recording and the slides. So if you cannot attend, but you're really interested in that content, make sure that you register anyway, so that you get the video and the slides. But you see we have APCSA coming up, APCSP, and then we have using AI to curate content for elementary teachers. So we probably won't see any of you at that one, but we do have some good ones still coming up. If you could go to the next slide. And if any of you teach APCSA, we are starting a meetup, a little PLC group for teachers who teach APCSA to get together, share resources, talk, find out what other teachers are doing. We know that many times high school and middle school even, computer science teachers are usually alone. Many times it's a department of one in many high schools. And so you don't get to chit chat with any other computer science teachers, but you would at this. So if you want to sign up for that, they're planning on meeting quarterly, and the link to register is there. And then if you could go to the next one. And then this is our road trip. So it's actually starting. I think he's already had one visit somewhere, but I'm going to put this link in the chat as well. And what's happening is we have a CodeHS ambassador who is going to be traveling across the country in this super cool looking pink van and showing up to various schools across the country to talk to them about computer science. And so if you would like the pink van and Blake to show up at your school, you can go to this link and you can put your information in there, and maybe your school will get put on the list to have him show up there. And then the next slide is just if you are interested in bringing CodeHS to your school, if maybe you're looking to have it in your district or several people in your school, you can go ahead and go to that Learn More link there. And that is it. So let's see, did we have any other questions while I was going through that? I don't see any other questions. Man, you guys are getting out 15 minutes early. Very nice, very nice. All right, well, thank you so much for attending. Thank you, Sarah, for the great information. And we hope that you guys have a great week. We'll see you later. Bye.